here I am, finally recording my message. I've got only ambient lighting on because I've got pandemic hair today, and I thought this lighting would be a little bit more flattering than the overhead bright light. But it's good to meet up with you here virtually, and I wanted to share a little bit about peace in my life. And when I think about peace, this peace that passes all understanding is something that believers can claim to have. And I know you all have experienced it before, or if you haven't experienced it before, I hope today is a blessing to you. I'm going to read to you a quote from D.L. Moody. He says, "There will be no peace in any soul until it is willing to obey the voice of God." So I'm going to be discussing the peace that I have found in obedience. Okay. In 1 Samuel, Samuel is reaming Saul out for performing sacrifices that he wasn't really ordained to do. But he says to Saul, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. Okay, so listening and obeying is really what the Lord wants from us. And I believe that we will never be satisfied until we are in obedience. And I think you know what it feels like to be in disobedience. I know so many times where I haven't said what I know I'm supposed to say, or I said something I shouldn't say, or I was going to do something because I felt led to do it and I didn't do it. I chickened out, or I got busy, or you just make a mistake and you kick yourself for not doing what the Lord has asked you to do. We've talked about that a lot in our Philippians class before we were sidetracked. But in the New Testament, Jesus commands his followers to obey him as well. And it's not so that we can earn his love, because there's no way we can earn his love, but it really is a way to show our love for him in the same way that he showed his love first for us. So I want to talk a little bit then about the peace that we can get through obedience. And I don't know that it's really hard to obey the Lord. Sometimes I feel it's harder to disobey the Lord because of the guilt that we feel and the shame that we feel for not walking in obedience. But honestly, I think that sometimes we don't obey because we don't know how to hear him. So I think you need to, maybe you're wondering, yes, I will obey you. What am I supposed to do? Sometimes we have to make a decision and we don't know what we're supposed to do. And so I want to encourage you in how to hear him. And the first and most important way I know that you can hear him is through his word. It's living, it's active, it's sharper than a two-edged sword. Read it, dig into it. And even if you're not going looking for an answer, what should I do today? Or what should I do with my life? Or where should we move or anything? We're not going to the Bible to use it as divination, but when we're reading it and we're in our regular study and what we've scheduled to study, it'll speak to our very specific situation. And that's just what's so amazing when the word comes alive like that. So first, look to the scripture. Secondly, when you're in prayer, you might get an idea that just is not something that you were creative enough to come up with, but it's like the Lord just plops something into your heart or into your brain, and it's like, whoa, that's awesome. Write that down, pray about it, and see if it lines up with scripture. Sometimes when you have an idea like this, along will come an email or a text message, or you'll bump into a friend and they will say something to you out of the blue because the Lord will be speaking to them, and they will just be able to confirm, like, hey, I was going to ask you about such and such. Have you ever had a conversation like that where you're like, oh my goodness, I was just praying about that yesterday. Thank you so much. So the Lord will use other people to confirm what either the scripture's been telling you or what your thoughts have been going, but always line it up with scripture. Sometimes you're just sitting in a service, a chapel service, or you're listening to a sermon on Right Now Media app, or you are, you're listening to, I said chapel, you're at church. Some people do that. And you hear a sermon and it's like, it's you and the Lord in a room, and the pastor who's preaching is just so happens to be the mouthpiece, but it's like that sermon was written just for you. And it's amazing when that happens. So, the scripture says that you will find him when you seek him with all your heart. So don't be discouraged. But whatever comes across your heart and your mind, always line that up with the word. And he will guide us. He wants to guide us. He wants to give us every opportunity to obey him, and not to earn his love, but just to show him how much we love him. And the peace that comes with that is the most satisfying type of peace. I'll just share a story from my own life. Really little. But I am a massage therapist, and in 2004 I was new and working at a spa, and was super happy to just work on whoever I could because I was new and starting a new career. And this woman came in, and it's a dark room, it's quiet, there's not a lot of chit chat going on, and after this hour-long treatment, I leave the room, and while she's getting off the table and whatnot, I just get this feeling like I'm supposed to say something to her. And it was not, I didn't know exactly what the words were that I was supposed to say, but I was like, oh my gosh, I have to say something to her. And I knew that was the Lord prompting me. And so after she came out and we talked about stretching and how to, self-care when she went home, before she left, I was like, I have to tell you something, Gina. And this may sound weird, but I just feel like you need to know that you're doing a good job. And she was like, okay. I had no idea who she was, what she did, where she worked, what her life was, but she started coming to me every other week. And when I quit working at the spa, she followed me, and she referred so many people to me. And she was a believer, and she went to church, and she had like half her church coming to see me. And I could never have started my own business if I hadn't just said to her, you're doing a good job. I didn't know that she was a manager at a grocery store, and that she was going through a horrible divorce, that she was becoming a single mom, that that so many responsibilities were being on her shoulders, and I just didn't know anything. All I knew is that I was supposed to say, you're doing a good job. And she was a catalyst to so much change in my life, just because I just said 5 words. And even after my husband joined the military and we went active duty, and I moved from Missouri to Texas, she sent me a baby shower in a box, because she was just that wonderful type of person and friend, and we still are friends today. And I thank the Lord for her. So not only will you get peace from being obedient, but you may actually, it will enhance your life in many ways, including friendships. So don't be afraid to do what the Lord asks you to do, even if you don't have the perfect words, even if you think it's a little crazy. As long as it does line up with scripture, the Lord will bless you for that, and he will be blessed because you are worshiping him when you obey him. I pray that during this crazy time that you will have moments of peace that passes all understanding. Have a good day.